chief guest did not show up. The other guests did not show up, so we found ourselves with our goats, our food, and our family. So we decided to make it a feast. Enough, they are our performers. Who has ever used a performer here? Yes. You know what I'm talking about. The chief or the DO certifies that you need. A cover letter is done, and then you attach a schedule. Then you approach Mr. Vincent and tell him, my name is Katana. I am actually very bright. I got these marks in primary. I got this grade in high school. Kindly assist me because I want to go to the university. Then Vincent writes 500 shillings. Then I go to, everyone in this room. Then you all write 500 shillings. Then I get 5,000 shillings. Of course, it's not enough, but it pushes me somewhere. So that is what I did. By the time we were almost reporting, that money was not even enough. So we decided to do a fundraiser. The chief guest did not show up. The other guests did not show up. So we found ourselves with our goats, our food, and our family. So we decided to make it a feast. Then in that feast, we started singing. We were actually in a bar at Kibaoni, Kilifi Kibaoni. There was a bar called Ushirika. So we started singing gospel in the bar. Of course, led by my dad, who is very passionate about gospel. So we started singing. So those guys who were drinking, they would ask, what is happening there? They were told, there is a fundraising for a young man who wants to go to the university. So now these guys, they would come and make contributions. Until I got my 28,500. You see how God is amazing. Yeah, so of course, when you get 28,500, you pay the fees upfront before you start having issues. So I paid, and of course I went to admit myself in the university. That is how I landed myself in Nairobi. Of course I took bus car. Landed in Nairobi, found my way to the university. Of course I asked police officers. I was advised that there were crooks in Nairobi, so you don't ask any stranger. So I asked police officers, excuse me, sir, I am from Kilifi, Ganze. I am looking for main campus. Fuata Moi Avenue. Moi Avenue nimefika, nimeona Central Police Station, nikaingia hapo ndani. Excuse me, sir, OB, I am looking for the University of Nairobi. University of Nairobi is right across. Oh, then I crossed. And then, of course, I found the line. So I admitted myself. There was a challenge, though. I didn't know we were paying separately for accommodation. So when I was done, May was seated at, there is a square called Pregnancy Square at main campus, a place where it's a jobless corner. So you sit there, you wait for classes, or you wait for a girlfriend, or you wait for something called form nowadays. Okay. So I was seated there, and then somebody asked me. There was actually a guy who was just next to me. He asked me, "Have you paid for accommodation?" I told him, "What are you talking about? I have finished." He told me, "You have to go to a place called Mamlaka to go and pay for accommodation." I asked him, "How much is accommodation?" He said, 5,000. I said, I don't have. So how do I get 5,000? So I struck a friendship with this guy, and of course made a few calls to somebody that I had just met within the line, and I was able to raise 5,000. When I went to pay at Barclays, they had closed the placement for accommodation, so we were supposed to sleep outside. And I went to the director and I told him, I have nowhere to sleep. In fact, where I'm coming from, I can actually sleep here. I can actually sleep outside. I don't have a problem. But I want you to know that I have nobody that I know in this town. And out of me being honest, I was given a mattress and a place to stay at a place called Prefabs. For me, it was very comfortable until I realized it was the dumbest of places you can ever be put in. But for me, that was not an issue. I went to my Prefabs. I was actually in Prefab 3 room 16. Okay? So I thought that was a bit significant then. So I went to sleep. The next day we were doing orientation and people were struggling with inter-faculty transfers and all that. I was contented that I am actually in the university, and that is what mattered. You know, this idea of parents asking, so who will you be? That is the hardest question I have ever had to imagine about. Because I don't know whether I will say I will be an advocate, I will be a doctor, I will be a teacher, I will be what? Nothing. For me, I used to tell them, I can work anywhere. Then they will tell me, are you really in school? Because first of all, you admitted yourself. Secondly, they don't even know where Nairobi is. So that is how we started. So I went for the orientation, and there, you know, Bachelor of Arts has almost 50 courses, so you have to choose 3. So I was looking for law. There was no law. I was looking for accounts. There was economics. I thought, Then I bumped into political science and public administration. I said, okay, this is home. I went all the way. I saw social work, sociology. I said, okay, sociology. What is sociology? I tried to find out what sociology is. I chose sociology. Then lastly, I said, whatever I'm going to choose as the third option is what I like most. And that was literature. So I chose the 3. And I started my classes. That was a very weird combination. I would have classes on Friday, on Monday, and be free from Tuesday all the way to Friday. Then I have classes on Friday. Can you imagine? You have classes on Friday. That was my situation. So I did political science, public administration, and I used to love it. I used to love it. I didn't know it would land me into the county assembly. So after that, we had to major. So I decided to take all of them because I was capable of doing that and more. I had a friend of mine who was doing law and Bachelor of Arts. So I used to look at him like, how are you managing these things? He said, you know what, we have a lot of time here. I said, no, if we have a lot of time, I am going to take all of them so that I don't have to choose. I want to just perfect this thing. So I did the 3. I double majored on sociology and literature. Then I took a minor in political science until I was done in 2012. Now before we go to 2012, in 2011, we had a very long holiday of around 6 months. So for me, every holiday, I would be helping my dad with his work. Now, my dad later came to specialize on digging latrines, septic tanks, and all that. He was the guy who used to work with, you know, that thing that looks like a spear. So I used to help him in no payment, just helping him out. So in one of his assignments, I went to, we did the assignment, and before I was heading back to school, I had found a life partner there. So that is how I actually found my wife. I found my wife when I was working as an assistant to my dad. We were actually doing a septic tank at her sister's place. So that is how we met. So, of course, this glamour was not there. It was a different scene. So that is where we met. And we are still together until now. You can imagine. So 2012, after I was done, actually my son was born in August 2011. I was actually in 3rd year heading to 4th year. I was 23 years old. And of course, I already knew that this is something that God has just given me this chance so that I can be man enough. And I thought I was man enough until the son came. Then I realized, okay, I have to man up. So I did. Of course, there were all those doubts that I would run away because I didn't look very serious. But when I realized that there was a kid involved and everything, looking at the situation, I didn't want to give somebody an opportunity to tell God that, you know what, if you're going to bless this man, please don't. Because he is letting this kid suffer, or he's letting us suffer out of his selfishness. So I decided I am taking it head on. And of course, I had the support of a few pillars like Mr. Moses, whom I have told you about. And of course, the first person I told this issue was Mr. Steve. So if you see us close, I have told him so many difficult things that I needed to decide on. So At 24, I graduated with my degree and my son and my wife. And without a job, I used to do a lot of research jobs. In campus, I used to go to those lecturers and bother them that I was very skilled in research. And they will give me chances to do these things. And when my son was born, now I had another reason to go hard on these jobs. So after I cleared and I went back home, of course now to stay with the family, because I had never stayed with them, I went home to stay with the family. There was an opportunity at USAID. USAID were offering a program in Parliament. It's called Junior Legislative Fellows Program. That was taking fresh graduates from the university. Then they are taken to Parliament to learn and strengthen the workforce in Parliament. And no, we are talking about 2013, 2012, 2013. Because there was the issue of now the bicameral Parliament where we have the Senate and the National Assembly. So they needed staff to strengthen their human resource. So we applied, and I applied to USAID. I was shortlisted, and I went for the interview. When I was going for the interview, in fact, I stayed in campus because I didn't have a relative in Nairobi. So I stayed in campus in some of the friends' hostels. So I stayed there. I went for the interview. And out of the 207 applicants, they only needed 15, and I made the cut. Amen. Now, what made me make the cut was this weird combination of my political science, sociology, and literature, because they pinpointed literature because they were starting a school to train members of Parliament. Okay? And because there was an issue of members of county assembly coming in, they were starting a center for parliamentary studies. So now with my literature, they thought I was a teacher. So they took me to CPST so that I could be able to offer my teaching skills and strengthen that institution to see whether they could offer capacity to members of Parliament, staff, and members of county assembly and their staff. So that is how I found myself in the National Assembly in 2013. From March 2013 all the way to December 2013, I was working in Parliament of Kenya. We were being paid by USAID a stipend of 20,000 shillings, but we were working right in Parliament. So me, I was posted in CPST, Center for Parliamentary Studies and Training, and that is where now this journey all the way to the County Assembly of Kilifi and all that knowledge, that is where I gained it. Because when we got there, the center had started a few years ago. They had not started rolling out programs. So we helped them to roll out programs. And when we were doing that, we asked them that if they could include us, the junior fellows who were not permanent staff of Parliament, to at least go do their reports. And they agreed. So we used to go for these trainings in Eldoret, Kisumu, Mombasa, Kwale, to do reports. So, you know, before you do the report, you have to be very attentive and you have to be disciplined enough to grasp everything and put it in a report. And that is how I learned all the parliamentary knowledge that I have to date. So by September 2013, counties were recruiting. County assemblies were recruiting. And you know, being at that environment where there was, we were working in Parliament, so many county assemblies wanted our services. So we were applying for jobs and we were going there, and we knew that we were a resource to these assemblies because most of them did not have structures. So I applied in Mombasa, Kajiado, Nairobi, Kilifi, and I was called for interviews. I went to Kilifi, which is my home county, did my interviews, and by October, November, I got a call that there was my letter to be collected as the principal clerk of the County Assembly of Kilifi. So in 2014, January 6th, I officially reported to the County Assembly of Kilifi in Malindi as the principal clerk. Now my role was to make sure that we lay out structures for assemblies to be able to undertake their constitutional mandate. Now you see where my interest in law was now. getting into real practice. Because in Parliament, I could see how the law was being made and how policies were coming through and all that. And for me, it was very interesting. I actually loved it from Parliament. You know, this idea of being employed in county assemblies, we were looking at it. When you're there, you look at it like, who wants to go to Mashinani anyway? You know, we're in the city, we want to be here. Because, you know, you cannot pass like 2-3 guys having a conversation. And then you have like a group here, a group there, and a group there. Out of the 3, one of them will be talking about a benchmarking trip. So that is very exciting. And Parliament pays well. So those greener pastures there are actually true. But because we were just, you know, supporting a supporting program for them, these opportunities, when these opportunities came, we took them and we decided, you know what, we are going to offer these skills on the grassroots. So I reported to the County Assembly of Kilifi as a principal clerk. I am an advisor to the Speaker and the members of County Assembly on all matters procedure, where the law starts to be enacted all the way to assent by the governor. If they have anything that they need to determine in terms of procedure, practice, etiquette, protocol, and even the law, this is the office that they have to go to. So I work very closely with the Speaker. I do research. I also work in the board for the Assembly. And it's been an exciting journey because when I came to Kilifi, there is a lot that we did in terms of, you know, changing the rules, how the rules are done, training members, making sure that the staff adapt to a parliamentary culture. And we're using the Commonwealth parliamentary culture. So that is what I have been doing. I have been very passionate about it. And for me, right from a young age, the issue of excellence is not something that I can let somebody bargain with me about. Because if it were not for it and, you know, the confidence that you have to pull with it, maybe some things will not have happened. So I have worked there. It's been an exciting journey. We are actually on the tail end of the second assembly. We have enacted laws. We have trained members. Apart from all these procedures, I also, based on the knowledge that I have on political science, also give insights to the members with regards to how you can be able to add value to legislation, their oversight and representation. Now, what is significant for me about this journey is that right from a young age, my brothers and my sisters, I knew from a young age that I am supposed to lay the groundwork for this family. Because my parents always reminded us that if it's not education, you are going to do casual jobs if you don't have education. And for me, because I have the experience of doing these casual jobs with him, I used to think about it. How is it going to be for me and my family to do this job? No. And my dad will tell us, if you go to school and you get an education, you will do less work and get paid more. If you don't go to school, you will do more work and paid very less. So you can imagine that contrast. So for me, that is something that I took out of that place. Number 2, why would I be concerned about excellence all the time? It's because of one thing. Remember I told you when somebody wanted something to be done at their farm, mom was the plug. Okay, I said that before. My mom is one of those persons who would verify, even if he trusts you, that you have done your job. So every time, you know, in those villages, if somebody has work to be done, they can give you this piece of land and tell you, you know what, I want this land tilled to my satisfaction. Now you can imagine, you don't know what the satisfaction of this person is. So my mom will tell us, we are going to do it so excellently. that when this person requires somebody to do this job again, he does not think about anybody else other than us. And that is what I pick. That is what I picked, and I carried it all along. I used to tell myself in high school, I always tell my friends, you know me, I will be sent home for fees. But I can assure you, if I get back here, you pray that I don't get back. If I get back here, I am going to make sure that I recover the time lost. And I'm going to compete with you on the same level. And I used to do that. I will be sent home for fees. I stay there for 2 weeks. I come back, I read, I take the notes, and then when we get to the exam, I pass. Because there was no compromise about excellence for me. And the fact that I needed to take up the responsibility at that young age. That is part of the reason why at 23, I made the decision to get married. It was not a big deal anymore, because from that young age, I knew this is how you set the ground for the others to flourish. So the sad story is my sister lost her husband in 2014, and she was left with her 7 kids. 7. And my father was, my mother and my father were handed over their daughter plus their grandchildren. And they were told, you know what, whatever you're going to do, it is none of our business. And I had just started work. So technically, I adopted these kids. And let me tell you the most amazing thing. One of my sister's kids, the eldest son, did his KCPE at Vitengeni Primary School, and he was called to Maseno School. And I knew now this is the test that I never anticipated. So now, being the uncle that I am, I decided, you know what? I am taking you to Maseno School. And when I got to Maseno School, I told him, you are here to realize my dream. This is actually my school, not yours. Just to tell him that he has an opportunity now, because there is somebody to look up to. There is somebody he can count on. There is somebody who can say, you know what, my nephew, this is how we are going. For me, the extent that I got to find these people, it was out of hardships. Of course, even for him, it is out of hardship. But it is not as straining as it was for me. The persons I have mentioned here just believed in the dream that I had. They only looked at me. They didn't look at how maybe roughly I dressed or something. They looked at me and said, you know what? This guy has the potential to make it somewhere. And I used to tell them, if I make it, the first people to make them proud is my mom and my dad. Sometimes I forget to say and my dad, but just understand. For a very long time, I was with my mom, okay? And I have taken sides with my mom from a very young age when some situations were not favoring her. So this is somebody whom I have always grown up and endeavored to make proud. And I am happy to say that I continue to make her proud. Because when I look at her, I look at resilience, I look at hard work, I look at excellence. For me, I don't have to go search it in on somewhere where I will just say, where can I find excellence? I put a picture of my mom at my door. Every time I leave that house and I see that picture, it tells me, you have to do the best. You don't have a choice about it. So that is something that I am happy to say that I am doing everything possible to make sure that my sister's kids get an education first, so that they can be able to lay the ground for their siblings and their mother, okay? So that they can be able to make their mom proud. I'm also happy to inform you that the third born is, the first born is also in school, in high school. The third born is also in high school. So I have 3 in high school, just giving them an opportunity to get an education. And I'm very happy that I can be able to do that, because for me, it took long treks and very difficult nights and days for me to find these people. So one thing that I want to all tell you, that kindness is not something that we have to think twice about when you want to offer it. We just have to give it, because you never know. Sometimes the little things that we do to other people, it doesn't matter whether you are known to them or not. It is only God who repays, and God pays it forward in so many folds. So for me, that is what drives me. I can be able to say that even when I tell somebody that this is what I am taking care of, they look at me like, oh my God, how do you even handle all this? May I only have one and it's hectic. I tell them, but I am even surprised I have never lacked. Okay? I am only telling you so that you understand that this is my life. And it's not like I am miserable. No. I am just one person who is giving an opportunity. And that is why the theme of this sitting was about setting the pace, laying the ground for other people to flourish. Because when you're a leader, you are supposed to be the candle that glows for other people to see. It might not be for your personal interest, but for the other people to do. Now, there is something, I like reading. I like reading. And I like playing. I like exercising, wellness, playing football, so many things. The surprising thing is I am doing them now because I can now. When I was growing up with all the self-esteem issues and all the confidence that I have to put on this face, I used not to do that. I would think of going to the field and say, they are going to laugh at me. I'm not going to do that. But I mean, right now, I can be able to see how I can balance myself and do that. So that is something that I wanted to share with you. And I hope the book that I'm reading now is called Return of the Rejected. It's by an apostle called Evans Ababu. If you have time, you can. If you get an opportunity to read that book, it's about finding yourself in the midst of adversity. And there is only one quote that I always refer to, and it keeps me going. Allow me to quote it. God never deals with great people in public. He prepares them in solitude. He sharpens them in the pain of loneliness. He inspires them in isolation. And he beautifies them away from the glare of cameras. So that is to tell you that behind this glamour that you can see out of somebody, there is a story that is significant behind that keeps this person going. And that is my story. Thank you very much.